As the night deepened, Thomas invited each person to share something, a hope, a fear, a dream. Old Margaret spoke of her garden, how it reminded her of her late husband's love for growing things. Eliza shared her dream of becoming a teacher, her eyes bright with possibility. Mr. Harrow, usually so reserved, admitted his fear that Elderglow's heart would be lost to progress, and then it was Victor's turn. The room fell silent. Victor stood, his posture stiff as if bracing for judgment. "I came here because I saw potential," he began, his voice steady but tinged with vulnerability. "My father was a dreamer, always talking of building something lasting. When he died, I promised to make his dreams real. But I see now that I've been so focused on building I forgot to listen." The honesty in his words caught Thomas off guard. He saw, in that moment, not a schemer, but a man carrying the weight of a promise. The prayer's words rang true. "See beyond appearances." Thomas stood, placing a hand on Victor's shoulder. "We all want Elderglow to thrive," he said. "Let's find a way together." What followed was a conversation unlike any Elderglow had seen. Ideas flowed, ways to grow without losing the village's soul. Victor spoke of a market that could showcase local crafts, not replace them. Margaret suggested a community garden where all could share in the harvest. Eliza proposed a schoolhouse funded by the market's profits. Slowly, fear gave way to hope and division to unity. As the night ended, Thomas felt a quiet peace settle over him. The prayer had guided him, not just in words, but in action. He had seen the good in Victor, in his neighbors, in himself. And though challenges lay ahead, he knew Elderglow would face them together, with hearts open and ears closed to slander. The next morning, as dawn broke once more, Thomas lit his candle and whispered his prayer. But this time it carried a new weight, a promise not just to himself, but to his village. And as the sun rose over Elderglow, it seemed to shine a little brighter, as if the world itself was answering his prayer. A new dawn's prayer. In the quiet hamlet of Elderglow, nestled between rolling hills and whispering woods, the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of soft pink and gold. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of dew-kissed grass and blooming wildflowers. It was a morning like any other, yet for Thomas Alden, it felt as though the world was holding its breath, waiting for something extraordinary to unfold. Thomas was no stranger to the rhythm of Elderglow. At 42, he was the village's baker, a man whose hands were as skilled at kneading dough as his heart was at offering kindness. Every morning, as the stars faded and the first birds stirred, Thomas would rise, light a single candle in his modest kitchen, and whisper a prayer. It was a ritual born from years of quiet reflection, a plea for strength, wisdom, and peace to carry him through the day. "Lord," he would murmur, his voice barely above a whisper, "in the silence of this dawning day I ask for strength, wisdom, and peace. Let me see the world with eyes full of love, to be patient, understanding, gentle, and prudent. Help me see beyond appearances, to find the good in everyone, and close my ears to all slander." This prayer had been his anchor through life's storms. It had carried him through the loss of his wife Eleanor 5 years prior, when grief had threatened to swallow him whole. It had steadied him when the village faced hardship, droughts, failed crops, and whispered tensions among neighbors. And it guided him now, as Elderglow stood on the cusp of change. The village was small, with no more than 100 souls, each known to Thomas by name and story. There was old Margaret, who tended her garden with the care of a mother nurturing a child, young Eliza, whose laughter could brighten the gloomiest day, and Mr. Harrow, the gruff blacksmith, whose heart was softer than he let on. But recently, a shadow had crept over Elderglow. A newcomer, A man named Victor Grayson had arrived, bringing with him wealth, ambition, and a vision to transform the village into a bustling market town. To some, he was a savior, promising prosperity. To others, he was a disruptor, threatening the quiet life they cherished. Thomas, as always, sought to see the good in Victor. He noticed the man's sharp eyes soften when he spoke of his late father, or how he lingered by the village well, watching children play, yet whispers followed Victor like a cold wind. "He's only here for profit," some said. "He'll tear down our homes for his grand plans," others muttered. The village was dividing, and Thomas felt the weight of it pressing on his heart. That morning, as Thomas kneaded dough for the day's bread, his prayer felt more urgent. He longed to bridge the growing rift, to help Elderglow find peace amidst change. As the sun climbed higher, he made a decision. He would host a gathering at his bakery that evening, inviting everyone, Victor included, to share a meal and speak openly. Perhaps with bread broken and stories shared, they could find common ground. The day passed in a blur of flour-dusted hands and warm ovens. Thomas baked extra loaves, each one infused with care, as if the act of baking could weave love into the very fabric of the bread. By late afternoon, the bakery was ready. Tables were set with wildflowers, candles flickered, and the scent of fresh bread filled the air. As villagers arrived, their faces were a mix of curiosity and caution. Victor was the last to enter, his tailored coat out of place among the simple woolens of Elderglow's folk. Thomas welcomed everyone with a smile, his prayer echoing in his mind, "See the good in each one." He began the evening with a story, one his grandmother had told him as a boy, about a village that thrived by sharing what little they had. The tale wove through laughter and hardship, drawing nods and smiles from the crowd. Even Victor's guarded expression softened, his fingers tracing the edge of his cup as he listened.